Yes, I'll do. Andrew,
I'm here.
Charles, Susan Kaufman, and we have alternate Mark. I don't know if we need to call Mark or wait for Susan.
Well, I'm here anyway.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I saw Damon,
Yep, I'm here.
Corey,
Corey Thomas is here, yes.
Todd,
Here.
Robert, okay, Chris Seaman,
That's me.
Alan,
Here.
Michael Barr, and Will Rodriguez.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We can start.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Stefan?
I'm
Stefan?
sorry, what was that?
Philip Limley here.
Oh, hi, Phil.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. Would anyone from the public or who's just tuning in, like Phil, who's on the council as well, want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, it's Barbara McMullen from the State Fire Marshal's Office. I'm just here to observe.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you.
This is John Heinlein with the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Same kind of thing, just observing.
Thank you, John.
Hi, my name's Sean Carlstrom. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Sean.
Yep, I'm with the City of Shelton. I'm the building official.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alrighty. So let's move on to number 2, review and approve the agenda. We just have 5 items there, and we're already on item number 2. So if anyone has a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda as noted. This is Al Spalding.
Thank you, Al. Second.
What do we note on it? Just as a clarification, this is.
Oh, just as listed. I meant just as listed.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'll second it then.
Thank you, Chris. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. And we've approved the agenda. Next up, review and approve the summary minutes from January 27th. So those are available online, and I think Krista can bring those up as well so we can see them. But those are pretty short as well. So do we have a motion? Oh, we can wait till Krista brings it up if she's trying. Here we go.
Sorry, it doesn't seem to want to come up for me.
That's okay. You want to try once more, or you don't think it'll happen?
Let me try.
Okay. If not, I think looks like most of us are on WebEx, so we can pull it up ourselves. We've only got, looks like 2
There it is.
call-ins. There we go. Beautiful. So any motions or any changes, first of all, corrections, and if not, any motions?
I move to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Thank you, Damon. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. And perfect. So we've approved the minutes. And now it looks like we can go on to sections. Let me pull up. The agenda on my screen. All right, we'll go in order here. We'll start out with section 3, or chapter 3, I should say, which I have too many screens going on here. Okay, chapter 3. Al, are you prepared to speak on those now?
I am.
Perfect. I will give the floor to you completely.
Okay, I hope I do this right. So looks like our first amendment, everything's 51-50, so this is 0303. I'm recommending that we keep this amendment. The model code still doesn't address the difference that we have in Washington. We had the art galleries. We had the art galleries more than 3,000 square feet. So recommending that we maintain that.
So
Next
if folks
section.
just want to speak up if they have questions or comments. Otherwise, Al, just go through if you want to pause just a couple of seconds between to let people, give people time, but feel free to speak up.
Okay, next section, 0305, dealing with educational group E, family home childcare. I recommend that we keep this amendment. The model code does not address that, that we have specific to Washington. Any questions? Comments? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go on. Next section, 0306, regarding factory group F, moderate hazard factory industrial group F1. I do recommend that we keep our amendment. Really, our amendment only addresses, we add into the list of F1's marijuana processing. And so I am recommending that we keep the amendment and add the new language that the 2021 includes. They added 2 new types to this category, group F1, and that's energy storage systems in dedicated use buildings, in water sewer treatment facilities, which makes sense to me. So I recommend we keep our amendment, which just really adds the marijuana processing to this list of group F1s.
So Al, so we would be taking in the 2021 language completely, but adding in also just marijuana processing. Is that how it would work?
That's what I might have veered off the track there a little bit, because I think the assignment is just to look at our amendments and say, do we need it or can we get rid of it? Or do we need to amend our amendments? So I probably overshared there. If that is the assignment and we're going to look at the model code language later, including these 2 new categories in this F1, then I think we'll address that at a later date. So
Ian, is that correct? We're just deciding now keep or not keep, and we'll decide how to deal with them later on.
So the first step is, yes, we evaluate our existing amendments, compare with if there is a new language in the model code, and we decide if we want to keep those or modify or repeal. This is the first step.
Okay, so
Andrew,
just
can I
basically
chime in a
yes.
little bit?
Yeah.
I would recommend doing as Al has here, and that we want to integrate the new language into the existing amendment rather than just saying we want to keep the amendment. This will help clarify things later.
Well, okay, that's good. What I'm trying to clarify here is that I want to keep our existing amendment that adds into this section marijuana processing And then I just wanted to let folks know that the 2021 includes new language for 2 new groups in this list: energy storage in dedicated use buildings and water sewer treatment facilities. And if we're doing that now, I would suggest we keep that. Or maybe when we look at the model code language versus the amendments, we have a second bite of the apple. I'm not sure. What do you think, Krista? Or I don't know.
I would recommend doing as Al has done here and just making sure it's clear that we want to integrate the new language into the existing amendment, just so we don't overwrite any new language with the amendment or vice versa.
Okay, perfect.
Uh,
Good job, Al. You're doing it perfectly then.
Any questions, comments?
I was going to ask Richard if he is here. I saw him. He's here, but how it was done in the past?
This is Richard, who did not sign in. Just exactly as Krista noted it, is it gets confusing if we take an amendment and say, yeah, we like that, but then the model code language is changed. When it comes time for staff later on to integrate the amendment, that could be lost. So the way Al did it, I just think was spot on. And I'm going back to mute.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, moving on. Next section, 0308, institutional group I. I think the staff recommendation was to consider omitting this reference, and I agree. Good recommendation, staff. It's not necessary. It's duplicative or redundant. Any questions? In that same section, 308.2, in the same amendment, institutional group I1. This is an interesting one because this is the section that calls out, as a stated amendment, that calls out that assisted living facilities, licensed assisted living facilities, and residential treatment facilities shall be a group I1 condition 2 occupancy by state amendment. The interesting thing about this is that then I'm going to skip down 2 numbers. In 308.2.6, we have a current amendment that says licensed care facilities. I'm paraphrasing. This isn't the exact language because I have too many screens up too. It says, licensed care facilities, it says assisted living facilities will be a group I1 condition 2, which is redundant because we already said that in 308.2. And then it says, and here's the tricky part, licensed residential treatment facilities in Washington State, their occupancy shall be identified in WAC 246-337. That is a licensing chapter that the Department of Health maintains for residential. We license residential treatment facilities. That's the licensing chapter. Here's what's interesting about that is last cycle, we presented a proposal to, instead of a one size fits all occupancy type for residential treatment facilities, because this is actually a licensed healthcare facility type that has evolved considerably over the last couple of years. We presented a model that would put the occupancy types based on a risk-based assessment into different occupancy buckets: I2, I3, I1 condition 2, I1 condition 1, R3, and potentially the lowest risk, ability to use the IRC, the International Residential Code. And the Department of Health committed to developing those rules, which we had a little thing called COVID-19 that kind of got in our way. And we have not developed those rules yet. So my question to the group is, we do have a plan in place. We have stakeholdering workshops scheduled. We have a CR 102, in terms of the rulemaking process that we have to follow. in accordance with the Administrative Procedures Act. We have a 102 scheduled and we have a plan for moving forward. But what's interesting about this is if a building official, you name the city or county, is looking at this section, he's first going to see 308.2 and say, oh, I see that a residential treatment facility needs to be an I1C2. Then if he reads down further, if he doesn't stop there, reads down further and looks at 308.2.6 and refers to WAC 246337, he is, oh, you know what? We'll probably have those rules developed by the time when are we going to adopt 2021? What does anyone know?
So it's probably July of 2022.
Yeah, see, the timing's going to be pretty darn close. So I guess my question is, if the Department of Health gets rules completed in time for this code adoption cycle, 2021, and it sounds like, Andrew, you're suggesting 2022.
Actually, you know, it might be 2023. Because
The effective date is July 1st, 2023, but it needs to be done by prior of that, by December. So the effective date is not when we finish the work. The effective date is when the new code becomes effective.
to July 2023.
July 2023, yes.
Okay, thank you.
In a perfect world, I'd suggest that the Department of Health would be able to get those rules developed before that date. But, you know, we've been significantly impacted by COVID-19. We have a significant, responsibility in the response activities. So things have slowed down for us in this agency. That's our agency's priority at the moment. Probably for good reason, I guess. And that I support, I should say. So my question to the group is, what would be ideal? Should we keep 308.2 that points to a residential treatment facility as an occupancy type as an I1 condition 1, and then leave 308.2.6 as well for additional clarification once we get the rules adopted and we have more of a spectrum lined out in our licensing rules based on risk categories or risk assessment, basically. Any thoughts on that? That's a lot to take in. I just dropped a bomb on you.
Hey, Al, this is Barbara.
Yeah.
Maybe it's also part of the fact of how many residents are going to be in that facility, because the I-1 talks about 16 or more. And then the 308.26 talks about if it's residential care facilities of under 16, which could potentially make it a different occupancy classification. So maybe it just needs to be identified by the number, not necessarily the type of care. Does that make sense?
Good point, Barbara. It does make sense, but I don't think it gets us to where we want to be. And I don't want to take too much time on this because I know this is supposed to be kind of a fast review, but we have what are called pediatric transitional care residential treatment facilities. Now, these are babies that have to be within the range of 0 to 12 months that are being titrated off. They were born addicted to drugs and they're receiving 24-hour nursing services in this residential treatment facility, being titrated off.
Well-designed M&E installation.
Being titrated off these drugs. Those the Department of Health is advocating for an I-2 occupancy. We have competency restorate because it's a high risk. We need things like generators these babies potentially need medical equipment to support them living. We have competency restoration where individuals have been charged with a crime, but they're not currently fit to stand trial. That's a high risk category. We want those to be I-3 occupancies. And then we start to get back down to the vanilla and even low risk stuff. And those will likely be I-1 condition 1s. Those are residential treatment facilities that provide services for substance use disorder treatment and mental health treatment. And we have a couple of them that are a little higher risk because they receive what we call involuntary clients. So they are locked in. And we want those to be like an I-1 condition 2, or potentially, depending upon the restrictions and ability to egress freely, maybe an I-1 condition 1. And then we have a couple of others that we're focusing on as an R-3 or using the residential code. Now it's interesting because the residential code we have limited in our draft rules, which we already have drafted. We limit the IRC facilities to 6 residents. So Barbara, we have taken sort of that concept that you're talking about into consideration.
Right,
but-
and those, Al, are regulated by RCW 7415, the ones that you're talking about right now. Because right now you're talking about the WAC 246 residential treatment facility. The ones
Correct.
for 6 or less are a different WAC. So I would love to talk to you more about this section when you start digging into the language, if that's okay with you.
Yes, but moving forward, potentially we could not make a recommendation on 308.2 and 308.2.6, and I could circle back with some of our other partners and do a little bit more research. I don't know. But this is a little bit of a conundrum, and I'm trying, my goal here, and it's just the situation is timing and pandemic and other things, but my goal here is to make this as clear for all building officials, all people that are going to be implementing this rule. And right now it's not sending a super clear message if we leave both 308.2, pardon me, and 308.2.6.
Agreed, because we don't want the building officials to have to dig into the whack of how they're supposed to classify a licensed care facility. So totally agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's important we leave things under local control. So we'll,
Right.
we'll need to have some sort of amendment here. But so maybe to satisfy this, we say we keep the amendments, and we'll look into how to amend the amendments to fit properly in.
Yeah, I think we need to probably do some coordination with this. Maybe that's my recommendation, is that we coordinate 308.2 and 308.26 based on potentially future Department of Health rule development. So one of the things I do want to share with the group is that last cycle, when we presented the concept of moving away from a one-size-fits-all occupancy type for residential treatment facilities, because of the evolution of this healthcare facility type, it wasn't well received. As a matter of fact, we weren't really able to have a very good conversation about it. But the tag did say, we like this idea if you just put it in your rules. And that's the last thing that we wanted to do. We don't want building code requirements in our licensing chapter, but that helped us move the needle forward. So we jumped on the opportunity. Ideally, we want the occupancy types, the building code requirements for occupancy types of these types of healthcare facilities. We want it in the building code. We don't want it in our licensing chapter. We think that's messy and not appropriate, but we're kind of stuck at the moment. The one thing that I know that I will have an opportunity to do later is represent in this tag. I can represent the proposal that we originally had and try and get that in as a state amendment. And I will do that.
Right, Al, and I want us to add in the DCYF group care facilities too, which are talking to some of the infants that you were talking about previously, because they are not addressed in the code.
Okay, so Barbara, that's probably a little bit later on in the process when we get to the part where we're being asked to submit our proposals for our code change proposals for this cycle.
Perfect.
And I can work with you on that, Barbara, as well, if you
Of course. Thank you, Al.
Okay, so My recommendation for 308.2 and 308.2.6 is two things. We need to coordinate those, and I'm also going to be proposing a new amendment. But for now, I say keep them the same. So I guess those are notes. Krista, about the coordination piece and the fact that I'm threatening to propose a state amendment. But I guess for now, short of that, I would say we keep those two the way they are with an effort to clarify them at a later date in this process. Does that make sense to folks? Any comments, questions?
Yeah, I just, what does it look like in the 2021 code? Do they change much? I mean, the Hawaii thing is kind of unique to Washington, but does the international code start addressing things any different or any major changes in the I groups in the international codes?
There have been some changes, Mark, but they still don't, they do talk about residential treatment, but not the same as what we license here in the state of Washington. And we, you know, I was trying to describe to you that broad spectrum of care that we have under this licensing chapter. That's not typically appropriate for, or not in our opinion, appropriate for a one size fits all occupancy type. And that's usually what the model codes do. They'll say nursing homes across the nation, across any state that adopts our codes are going to be an I2. And so that's where the rub is that we have, as the healthcare facility delivery model has evolved, we the ICC or the model codes we haven't been successful in getting those adjusted to meet Washington specific needs. These are currently Washington specific needs. Does that answer your question, Mark?
Yeah, somewhat. It would be nice to see maybe suggesting that the model codes move and get their licensing particulars involved in there.
We do have the Department of Health Construction Review Services does have a seat at that table. That's my supervisor, John Williams. He's involved at the national level, and we will certainly work towards adopting or work towards getting that fixed on the national level. But at the moment, I don't have that to work with.
Thank you.
Moving forward then, 308.2.5, adult family homes, that we just keep, I'm recommending. Adult family homes is another example of a very specific Washington term that's a licensed healthcare facility that's not addressed in the model codes. Any questions? Moving on, 308.3, institutional group I2. No change. I'm recommending keep the amendment. The difference there is we identify hospice care facilities as a group I2. The model codes do not. Again, that's a Washington State Department of Health licensed healthcare facility. And for clarity, that's important. Any questions? Moving forward, 308.5.5, family home child care. Again, that's a Washington State special category. I recommend that we keep that amendment and don't make any changes to it. Okay, I'm going to move forward to section 0309, Mercantile Group M. We do have an amendment for Group M. We add art galleries that are 3,000 square feet or less. There was a very particular reason for that. I wish I should have probably brought up the previous proposals. I can't remember exactly what the argument was, but it was a very good one, and it got passed. So I'm recommending no change, that we keep this amendment.
Al, as somebody who was there, I don't think the argument was that good.
Okay. Well, hey,
But
do you have a difference in opinion?
It was enough. I mean, right now for what we're doing, that's fine.
We're
But,
going to have another bite of the apple, right?
Yeah, it was people felt it was needed to explain something that I didn't feel was needed to explain in depth. It was to cover what some people perceived as a loophole, I think. But
so in those cases, I suggest that we probably have the opportunity in this process at a later date to make a proposal to delete that amendment.
Yeah, yep. But I think that'd be a different process. If I feel strongly enough, I should probably submit a code change form.
Okay.
You know what I
Very
mean?
good.
Like, because it's already in there. We're just seeing what effects the new code has on it.
Very good, Chris. Very good. I got to remember where we're at. Okay. Moving on, unless there's any other questions. Next section would be 0310. This is residential group R, 310.3. We actually have this amendment listed as Krista, we have this amendment listed as 310.4 in the 18. So, but I think it should be 310.3 like you have listed. It's not 310.3 in the 18 as you have listed, but we do need to change it to 310.3 moving forward for the 2021. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we'll double check the number, and yes, it does make sense.
Yeah, that's the note. Double check the number. But I am recommending keeping the amendment. The next 310.4.3, 310.4.4, and 310.5. I recommend keeping all those amendments, but we need to check the numbers in all those too. They're listed currently in our amendments as 310.5.3, 310.5.4, and 310.6. And they should be the numbers that you have listed for the 2018 IBC number, 310.43, 44, and 5. So a number check there on these, please. I do recommend that we keep all those amendments. Any questions?
Thank you, Al. Go ahead. It sounded like there was a question or comment.
Well, I was just going to say in the 2018, the 310, 4, 3, and 4, 4, they're not there.
Exactly my point.
Okay.
Yes, someone agreed with me.
Any other comments or questions? The next step will be we'll just vote to, I guess, put forward our tag recommendations for chapter 3. So,
well, in 310.4, would there be an issue with adding for adult family homes that the maximum residence would be 6 and 8 with sprinkler systems?
Good question, Sean. But, we could certainly do that during the proposal period, but that is really a DSHS, Department of Social and Health Services issue. And I don't know that I would want to sign on to supporting that without their input.
Okay.
I have a very strong relationship with the Adult Family Home Program Manager, Libby Wagner. I've talked with her about this, and Richard and I and Libby have tried to work towards fixing that and clarifying that. I think that does need work, but I don't know if it's appropriate to do it at this juncture while we're looking at amendments,
Okay.
existing amendments.
Yeah, that would be more appropriate, as you said, during the proposal period.
Okay. Okay. But that's a good idea. It, you know, obviously you're up on the newer legislation. So as a matter of fact, I think there needs to be clarity. Was that Sean did you say that?
Yeah.
I think there needs to be also clarity on what type of sprinkler system.
True.
So good point.
Yep. I think right now you can do a 13R.
I think right now it doesn't specify. And I think right
So
now
it's, yeah.
you could do a 13D, I would suggest. You could do one of
Okay.
the three. You could do one of the three types recognized.
Okay.
But again, I really want to get DSHS's input on that before we as a tag suggest something that would impact this is the licensing agency's piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would make a motion to accept my own recommendations.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
This Chris, I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. And motion passes. Al, you seem to be the man of the day. Do you mind if we give you a break instead of between 4 and 5, we give you a break now and let Damon do chapter 5? Damon, if you're ready to do that, I just want to make sure, since you've got something else that you have to jump off in about a half an hour, that you've got enough time to fully discuss everything.
Yeah, I believe I'm ready
Okay.
for section
Where's
5.
yours?
Alrighty. So I would move to keep the amendment in section 503.1.4. There weren't any changes in 2021 code. They add in a sentence: an occupied roof should not be included in the building height or number of stories as regulated by section 504, provided that the penthouses and other enclosed rooftop structures comply with section 1511. But that's as far as like the amendment and the amendment goes, it matches the code. So I would move to keep that amendment changed to.
So
yeah,
did you,
go ahead.
if the amendment matches the code, then we can delete it, or did I misunderstand?
I think the amendment matches what's in the 2021 code.
Okay, so I think that means we can delete it if it's taken care of by the model code.
Okay, they do add in this last sentence in that section 503.1.4 about
delete it. We don't delete it until we adopt the 2021 code.
Well, the amendment is currently in 2018 and 2021. We're talking about 2021 now, right?
yeah. I mean the amendment I looked at was a 2018 amendment, correct?
Correct. And then did you take a look at the 2021 code for the same section to see if the amendment was addressed
I have
as
the
part
book.
of the model language?
I've got it right here. I think I would move to keep the amendment because it's the same. I think I'm doing this correctly.
Hold on, let me pull it up. So 50314. All right, so occupied roofs. So
yeah, a roof level or portion thereof shall be permitted to be used as an occupied roof, provided the occupancy of the roof is an occupancy that's permitted by table 504.4 for the story immediately below the roof. The area of the occupied roof shall not be included in the building area as regulated by section 506. And that is in the 2021 code, and that's the amendment that I just read. So I moved to keep that amendment, correct?
I think we'd move to strike it. Stoyan,
Okay.
Krista. That's,
If amendment is addressed in the model code, yes, we need to strike it.
Okay, yes, then we'll strike
does that make
I'm
sense,
sorry.
Damon?
Yes, because since it's already addressed in the 2021 code, there's no reason to have the amendment.
Correct.
Okay. Well, up through this entire section, I went over a lot of this stuff is similar. There aren't very many changes, if that makes sense. I went through all of the amendments that I had, and I don't think there wasn't anything removed in 504.3. So let's just move to strike 503.1.4, and then we'll move to the next one.
Okay.
Okay. So I moved to strike that. So for section or table 504.3, there's no change to the graph 504.3, but in the 2021 code 504.4 and 504.4.1 have been removed. So I think that would strike that from would strike the amendment as well for 504.3. And then we have the tables are the same for 50, or they removed in the 2021 code, they removed the tables for 504.1 and 504.4.1. So do we strike those also?
I think we'll probably be striking. Do all of these deal with heavy timber?
They're just in reference to table 504.3, which is allowable building height and feet above grade plane.
This is
Okay.
Chris, if I can interject real quick. I think, so for example, 504.3, the local amendment is footnote I. That is what our amendment does, is adds footnote I. The model code in the 2021 hasn't changed at all from the 2018, so we would need to retain our amendment. So if the model code does not change, we need to keep business as usual. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So
Okay.
I think I think when you were looking at everything, maybe you're in it backwards. If there were no changes, we can get rid of stuff, but if there are no changes, we need to keep stuff. And if there were changes, we need to identify if those changes can allow us to get rid of our amendments. Because what we do as a state, and particularly through WABO, is try to push up our local amendments to the model code so that we can eliminate local amendments, if that makes sense. So a lot of what you'll see change is stuff that was presented by our local building officials.
Okay. So all right, I'm just trying to track here. So we've got, the biggest change in 504.3 and 0.4 was just that section I there, for the footnote I, sorry.
Yeah, footnote I is what our amendment is. And footnote I is not accommodated in the 2021 because
so we need to keep that amendment.
Exactly.
Okay, yes. Well, then I move to keep that amendment. Then I apologize for that.
No,
Like
it's
pulling
okay,
teeth here. I'm sorry, guys. And then
it's okay.
So we've got table 506.2. I believe there's no change in 506.2, so we can. Let me just double check.
Hey, this is Todd. So just to clarify in our notes, you know, for example, the two tables, 504.4 and 504.3, essentially most of the table is superseded now by the actual model code with the exception of footnote I. Would it be helpful to actually state that? Instead
We
of
can
just saying
state
keep
that, yeah,
amendment?
to let them know.
Just to
Yeah,
make
that
sure,
footnote.
to my knowledge, nothing has changed in those tables. I think we did it, you know, in the new type 4. We were
Right.
obviously matching what the model code was going to be, but just to make sure that that gets checked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be. Yes, I agree. So would we make a note in the comments to state that there haven't been any changes to the tables themselves?
Well, I know it's getting in the weeds here, but it is a major amendment we did in the 2015, 2018. So the table now is in the model code, but the footnote I is really the only amendment to keep, technically.
Right. The, you know, for type 4 construction, how that was expanded for basically for CLT, cross-laminated timber. So that
That's
was a big purpose, I think, of this amendment, Todd. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
I
saying?
just, you know, when you look at our 18 code, obviously it's all red, right? Because it's a big amendment, but technically in the 2021, that's all superseded. And the whole table will be black except for footnote I, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. So we'll keep the footnote I. And then I believe, what are we on? 508 here. 508.4.1. Pop up my notes real quick. No, there's no change to section 508.4.1. So we'll I move to keep that amendment as well.
Backing up to table 506.2, do we still need that amendment? Because I believe that was just added in for allowable area for the type 4 construction. It looks like we've got all the footnotes aligned with that. It looks to me like we might be able to get rid of that amendment.
Todd, that's my understanding too.
Oh, okay, then we can strike that amendment if it's already addressed by the model code.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, then we'll keep 508 and then 509.4.1. Second here. My notes go. I think there's the dry type transformers clause was removed from table 509. Type 4B and type 4C construction remain unchanged. So I believe that means we can strike the amendment 509 since it's addressed in the model code.
Okay, Damon, do you think you need more time on this? You know, with the additional direction from here, you know, it's okay if you want to come back next time or the time after. Okay, I'm looking up at, for example, the 508.4.4.1, and it looks to me like we've got all of that factored in there. That's dealing with mass timber. So it looks to me like we could probably delete that. But if you need more time on this, it's okay. Or do you think you've got a good feel for them all that we can finish going through and vote today?
I may want to have to circle back because I think I'm not. If that might, I mean, I might need more time. So
okay,
I think I have a pretty good grip on it, but I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly and not, you know, causing more hiccups.
Okay, and you've got access.
I have the opportunity.
You've got access to the 2021 IBC.
Yeah, I've got the code book right in front of me, and I was reading.
Okay.
You know, I was prepping all week for this. I thought, you know, when the notes I took, and obviously this is the first time being on the tag, so I'm just trying to make sure I have this down, you know, correctly.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly okay, Damon. But yeah, you know, if what we put in as a state amendment made it into the model code, then we can delete that.
Okay.
So yeah, if you just want to go through again, take your time, and you know, we can put you on the agenda in a future meeting. That's okay.
And
Yeah,
also,
I'd be happy to. Yep.
staff can help if Damon needs help. We can help him out.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Stoyan. Thank
No
you,
worries.
Andrew.
I did that last week, so it's okay. Thanks, Damon. Al, are you ready to talk again? Did you rest your voice long enough that you can move on to chapter 4?
Sure, you bet.
Perfect. The stage is yours.
All right. Let me untangle here just a second. All right. So chapter 4, first section I looked at here was section 0403. This addresses high-rise buildings, water supply to required fire pumps, and the tag. The model code addresses our state amendment at this point. So I believe we should delete that amendment to 403.3.2.
Yeah, that looks the same to me too.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next section in the same area, 403.4.8.3 standby power loads. I am recommending that we keep that. That's not addressed in the model codes. We still have the difference. We add in an exception. We add in the sump pump serving elevator pits, which is not included in the model codes. Questions?
Nope, looks the same to me.
Thank you. Next section, 403.5.4, smoke-proof enclosures. I recommend that we keep our amendment. It's not addressed in the model codes, but the numbering order is off. We need to check the number on this. Questions? Not hearing any.
You're just talking about the references that are in it.
The numbering of the section itself.
40354 looks like smoke-proof enclosures to me.
In the 2021?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I may be wrong on that. We could still, all right. Maybe we don't need to.
Yeah.
It looks correct.
But
Okay.
we may want to check our that reference to 102311 doesn't look right anymore. It looks like it should be 102312. But
And our state amendment is listed as 403.5.4 as well.
yes.
Okay.
But I think we need to check the references in it though.
Check the reference. Let's keep that note, please. That's a good recommendation. Okay. Next section, 405.7.2, again, smoke-proof enclosures. I recommend that we keep this amendment, and also there was a staff recommendation. This should be new WAC 5150-0405. Totally agree with that. Questions?
Would that mean, sorry, I keep jumping in because I figure you don't want to talk into the void. That means like create a separate WAC. Or it's not included in the fire code? No, sorry. Just to
No,
create
it's
a whack so that it's not
the-
all lumped
the-
in with the other junk.
the numbering is off, I think. Is that right, Krista? I don't know who made the staff recommendations here that are bolded on the left-hand side.
I think
Or
those came from Richard, and it's just in how it's filed with the code revisor. We'll need to go back and take a look and make sure everything is where it should be.
Okay.
oh yeah, I
see.
would. So I just recommend that we keep that note then, because I think Richard
Okay.
was onto something there.
Yeah, Al, this is Richard, and you just needed to stop with you agreed with Richard.
Okay.
This is just to clarify for those that actually go to look at the WAC, that the WAC numbering corresponds with it doesn't change any legal implications. It's just a better way to cross-reference. And I'm going back to mute.
Al, I think we should also check the reference numbers in this one because it's the same amendment language as the last one, and it has some references to other sections in the code.
Thank
So I
you,
think we should
Chris.
double check those.
Okay. Moving on. Section 0407, Group I2, 407.4.4.3, access to corridor. The model code does not address that, and I think we need to keep our amendment. Not hearing any comments. Next section is 0412, specifically 412.2.2.1 stairways. Model code does not address
Oh, sorry, Al, if we can back
Yeah.
up.
access to corridor. Okay.
We are overriding a section, and there's a lot of change to that section in the 2021. That
In
407.4.4.3.
407.4.3.
Yeah. I don't know that we've accommodated ours, but we might want to see if there's language in the new one that we want to keep or marry with ours. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's mostly updated text in the model code.
Okay. I may not have caught that. So
It doesn't appear to accommodate ours. And there's also a notation that they deleted a section. So I don't, in the model code. So something may have shifted around on us.
I may have to go back to this. I may have to ask for an alibi for this one. Or redo.
Yeah. But I agree that it doesn't look like it's accommodated in the model code, but we might want to make sure we're not overwriting something we don't want to overwrite.
Okay. Okay. New language. And okay, so I'm not going to make a recommendation on this, so I need to come back to this one based on that. Thank you, Chris. Moving on to the next section, 0412, specifically 412.2.2.1 stairways. The model code doesn't address our state amendment because we delete the exception to the stairways in, what are they called? The control towers at an airport. And we delete the exception to 1011.12, and that is actually in the model code. So I believe we need to keep that. And next section is 412.7.3, means of egress. This is actually listed in our 2018 as 412.8.3. So we need to check the numbers on that. I believe it should be 412.7.3, but we have it listed as 412.8.3, I think, in the amendment. And again, the model code doesn't address this amendment, so I would recommend that we keep it. Moving on. Section 0420, specifically 420.2 separation walls. Again, the model code doesn't address our Washington specific amendment. So I recommend we keep it. Keep our state amendment. .11, adult or 11, adult family homes. I recommend that we keep this. It's not addressed in the model codes.
It looks like we may have to move it though.
Yeah, well, it's noted as the number changed in 2021 as 420.12 already on my
Perfect.
spreadsheet.
Oh, perfect. Yep. Okay, perfect. Then yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's
So
our own state section. It doesn't exist in the model code at all, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Next section, 420.11.1, sleeping room classification. Model code does not address our state amendment. I recommend that we keep it. And it is properly noted as needing to change the number in the 2021 IBC number. So thank you, staff, for that. Next section, 420.11.2, types of locking devices and door activation. Again, the model codes don't address our state amendment. It is noted as needing a different number, which is appropriate, and I recommend that we keep the amendment. Questions? Next section, 420.11.3, smoke and carbon monoxide alarm requirements. It's noted as needing a new number that's appropriate. It's not addressed in the model code. I recommend we keep this amendment. Questions? Next section, 420.11.4, escape windows and doors. It is noted as needing a new number, which is appropriate. It's not addressed in the model codes. I recommend we keep this amendment. Questions? Next section, 420.11.5, grab bar general requirements. It is noted as needing a new number. That's appropriate. It's not addressed in the model codes. I recommend we keep this amendment. Questions? Next section, 420.11.6, shower stalls. It is noted as needing a new number. That's appropriate. This amendment is not addressed in the model codes. I recommend we keep it. Questions?
Al, I have a question. Did you check 117.1, which is referenced? Are things in there, or even if they are, you would still recommend we keep them in the IBC here?
Yeah, I'd recommend well, we're gonna have to do some of that cross. I did not look at. Are you talking about A117?
Yeah, A117.
Yeah, I did not reference that, but I'm hoping we're gonna have a chance to do some of that cross referencing later, because we had a discussion about that. I think last meeting where we're moving to the 2017, correct?
2020, I believe, is the most recent. But yeah, the most recent edition.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, if it's in 117, I guess question is, do you still think it's a value here, or because we're referencing A117.1 that we can get these deleted?
Actually, what I'm saying is I did not do the cross reference to the sections in 420.11.6 that you're referring to. So we still need to do that. That's what I'm saying. Okay. That's a good point, Andrew.
Andrew, can I interject here?
Yeah, please,
the state
Krista.
amendment was specifically crafted with the language here, so they wouldn't need to go back and forth between the two documents. So that was the intent of putting it here, but whether we keep that or not, that's still
so the
air,
ideal.
that's why it's there.
So the idea was to put it in the building code, even if it is repetitive or duplicative of 117.1. Is that what you're saying, Krista? Okay, so then, okay, that's what I was asking, Al. So then it sounds like we can check it out, but it doesn't necessarily matter. We'd probably want to keep it anyway, like you're saying.
Can I say something? There are
Sure.
significant changes in A117.1. And I'm not completely sure about this section, but I'm working on A117.1 pertaining to Chapter 11. So I will I can do the cross reference and see if the language is still applicable.
Oh, that's excellent. I appreciate that. And I'm also going to look at that as well. Thank you, Stoyan.
Al, did you check the building code references that are throughout those sections where it references internally to other sections in the code to see if they moved?
I did not.
Okay, so I would suggest that we do that.
That's a good note too. I did not. I was looking specifically. I should have done that.
Oh, no. I mean, that's a lot of work. So, but I think we should just identify that we still need to, is all.
We still need to.
Yeah.
And then we should note that. And I'm keeping my spreadsheet updated as we go as well. So I know where I need to go back and report back. Okay. Anything else on shower stalls? 420.11.6.
Sean, where do I put this back?
You can keep it.
Oh, I can keep this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on.
So much.
Next section is 420.2, licensed care cooking facilities. It's noted as needing a new number, but I'm not sure I agree. It's noted as needing a 420.13. The model code, I want to keep the amendment that we currently have listed as 420.12. But right now, the model codes has a section very similar to our state amendment, numbered as 420.8. The model code section is 420.8 that is similar to our current 420.12. And I'd like to integrate the two. They both have the same, almost exact same intro, licensed care for cooking facilities that that are open to the corridor. And we currently have a state amendment that provides for about 13 mitigations or 13 measures, if applicable, that you have to meet. And the model code doesn't have those. It has a couple of provisions, but I think we need to meld those two concepts together.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It looks like 420.9 has a number of our 13 conditions.
So I
and that's
don't
an
want
entirely
to,
new section.
exactly. And I don't want to just carry over this amendment if some of it's already, so.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is this needs a little bit more work by the code. May even require kind of a code proposal to make it very clear, but this isn't, so I am saying that we need to, my recommendation is we need to amend our current amendment to align better with the model codes. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. Next section. This is section 0422, ambulatory care facilities, means of egress. It is the same number, 422.3.1, and it's not addressed in the model codes. I recommend we keep it.
Al, I think I see it there. I don't know what our amendment does. I haven't figured out.
I'd have to pull it up and compare it.
Because it's there. There is a 422.3.1. And I'd have to copy and paste the text around to see what's different, but I don't see what's different. I wonder if we missed it last time. as a one to eliminate.
Maybe. I think the language regarding the fire safety evacuation plans provided in accordance with section 10, 2.2 shall identify the building components necessary to support sections 4, 3, and 4 of the IFC. I think that's the,
And that's in the model code.
that is in the model code.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, I think it reads word for word. I wonder if it got changed last time and we just missed it.
well, if I thought it was not addressed, but
Yeah, it looks like it's addressed verbatim, except there's a couple other, when it talks about section 403, it just says that it's a defend in place emergency response. So I think we can delete it.
okay, I'll go with that.
I see that. That's the difference. The model code says defend in place, and we kind of delete that out
Yeah.
for some reason. And maybe that's because you guys don't want that in there.
Well,
yeah.
ambulatory care facilities are not technically a defend in place.
Yeah, I take it back then. That's the difference. Thanks
Yeah.
for catching that.
Okay, so that was deliberate then to take out the defend in place.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very deliberate.
Okay.
We would. Yeah, these aren't I occupancy facilities. They're Bs.
Yeah,
This
no,
is a
you're
B.
right. Totally.
This is a B occupancy. So we definitely don't want to send the message that this is a defend in place. This is an you evacuate. If you've read
These can have, an ambulatory care facility can have incapacitated people undergoing, sinus surgeries, little laparoscopic surgeries.
They're doing hips and knees and elbows and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
So-
almost everything now. Soon we'll be able to do everything there. Hopefully.
Yeah, but the deal is there, Andrew, we don't want them to defend in place in a B occupancy. We want them to potentially, if they're required to have smoke compartmentation, we want them to potentially horizontally evacuate and assess the situation, but ultimately they're going to evacuate them. We want them to take the patients out.
Okay.
So it sends the wrong signal to use the term defend in place. This was a purposeful amendment.
Was that to clear up any confusion that may have been associated with the absence of a definition of a staged evacuation?
Perhaps. Good point, Mr. Campbell.
I'm pretty sure that came from the Department of Health section that surveys and that reviews ambulatory surgery centers. So I'm just trying to catch up to what the change was to see if it's still relevant. But I know there was some confusion about the phrase staged evacuation and the direction that may have provided in the code, or absence thereof if it wasn't a defined term. I think that was the key.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, where are we at on this one then? Do you want to keep the state amendment with some notes to go back and double check?
No, I think you were right the first time you had it. I think it's not addressed. It was, yeah, I think you were right the first go.
Okay, so my first recommendation was to keep the state amendment. Okay, moving on. Next section 0427, electrical vehicle charging infrastructure, specifically section 429.1 scope. Our state amendment is not addressed, so I recommend that we keep it. Not addressed by the model code, so I recommend we keep it. And the staff recommendation that this be moved to 5150-0429 is appropriate. A good recommendation. Questions?
So you agree with Richard again?
I'm not going to say that over and over again. That's just gonna, that's, you know what that'll do. Yes, I agree with Richard again.
Al, I'm an architect. There's nothing wrong with my ego. It can't get any bigger.
Okay, all righty. Any questions on that section?
Nope. I do have a comment on what Richard said. I think astrophysicists are known for having the biggest egos. That's what I've always been told. So you have something to strive for.
All right, we're gonna move on. We almost got chapter 4 done here, folks. So next section is 420.9, required electric vehicle charging infrastructure. That is not addressed in the model code. I'm recommending that we keep our state amendment. Questions?
All right. Any questions or comments on chapter 4 in its entirety, or anything you've been over?
Andrew, there are 3 more. I know you're done listening to me, but
I'm sorry. Okay, on my list, that was the end. My apologies. Go ahead, Al.
Next amendment's 429.3, electrical rooms. Again, this is not addressed in the model code. I recommend we keep the state amendment.
Sorry about that. I just assumed since all this was a new section, that we were just addressing this section. So sorry.
Sorry,
I did
me
have
again.
those 3. One.
Yes, Chris.
I think we moved this last time and we missed the section references within the amendment itself. So there's a bunch of 427s referenced everywhere, which I think is where it used to live. I think those all need to be updated because 427 is medical gas systems.
Right. Well, that's why this entire section is being moved to 429. Do you see the note at the top that's highlighted by Richard?
It already is in 429. It currently is referencing medical gas systems.
Right. Oh, okay. Okay. I get it. Okay. So update the references. Very good. Any other questions? Next section, 429.4, electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Again, our state amendment's not addressed by the model code. I recommend that we keep that state amendment. Questions, comments? Last section, 429.5, electrical vehicle charging infrastructure for accessible parking spaces. Again, our state amendment is not addressed by the model code. I recommend that we keep our state amendment. Questions, comments?
Now, our state amendments are 427, not 429, right? Because I'm looking at them.
Added, the 2021 code has 427 and 428 now as well. So 427 used to be the last section. Now we're just moving it to the new last section.
In the 2018, those sections exist. So
currently,
yeah.
Okay.
This is what our current amendment reads as 429, and we have internal references to 427. We messed up last time.
Okay.
I guess I can take partial blame.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris, for the clarification or correction, I should say.
So do we need to update references in all those? Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Everyone that has one inside of it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Taking a note of that. Good. That's chapter 4, folks, in terms of state amendments.
Thank you, Al. Comments, questions? Al, you want to do the honors of making a motion?
Yeah, it's kind of complicated motion here because I recommend that, well, Krista did a good job taking the notes. So I recommend that we approve the recommendations with the notes that ask us to go back and look at a couple of these sections and update references and perhaps cross-reference accessible and usable buildings and facilities, A117.1, whatever the new number is.
I think that's a perfect motion.
Okay.
Second.
Does anyone else agree? Thanks, Chris. All the discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? And the motion passes. Speak up if you'd like to take a couple-minute break. Otherwise, we'll continue on.
A couple-minute break sounds really good.
Okay, let's take a couple-minute break.
Second.
Is 5 minutes enough, or you need 10?
I'm good with 5.
5. Okay. We'll come back. I've got 11:21. We'll come back at 11:26.
Thank you.
All right, so it's 11:26 now, so we'll get started again after our 5-minute break. Al, are you back, or did you want to come back? Well, Al and Chris, I guess both of you are doing chapter 10. Did you want to go now, or you want to move on? We can do 27 and then, to give you guys a break if you need it.
Either
Sounds
way.
like Al's.
Yeah, he
Okay.
might still be out. We weren't able to coordinate too much on it, so.
I'm back.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Yeah, did you hear me, or?
No,
You
I just
didn't.
came back. I just came back on.
Okay, did you want to do 10 now, or did you want to rest your voice for a little bit and we can move on to 27? That's just a fast one, a single, or I'll let you keep going. It's up to you. Like I said, you're the man of the day.
Well, I think number 10 is Chris, and I agreed to support him, and we haven't had a chance to coordinate, but
No. Yeah.
I have made it through most of chapter 10. How about you, Chris?
Perfect. Yes. So do you want to just interject when I misspeak or miss something?
That sounds perfect.
Okay, that works. Okay. I want to start with, I signed up for 10 in this tag and the fire code tag to kind of get credit for the same thing with only doing something once. But I learned I made a mistake because we have not done a good job of coordinating the two codes. There are numerous sections that exist in the building code that don't exist in the fire code as amendments. So I'm going to try to flag those as I go. Okay. So the first one, the occupant load one, this is one of those sections that was not accommodated in the fire code. So if we just need to make sure we get it in there since it's gonna stay. Otherwise, there were no changes to the model code. So I would recommend we keep it, but loop in the fire code tag. And I'll say the same thing when I report back to that tag.
What was our state amendment? Was it just like concentrated business areas, or was it something else?
It was honestly, I think, very silly. It's for billiard halls. It gives a one for billiard halls. Somebody came with a proposal that was really worried about assigning occupant load factors to billiard halls.
They must have had a fight about that.
They must have. So it is in our code. But that's all it is. And then the next one, sorry, I've got like 3 spreadsheets. 1006.2.1. That text is updated in the model code. We can eliminate that one. And then the 1006.2.1, that one, there were no changes in the model code, so we would need to keep it. 10.006.2.4, you can see that staff put question mark for where it is now. And I agree. I don't know where it is. So I'm hoping that when we have the significant changes, I can find out where it went. So we need to come back to this and look at it closer.
This may sound silly, but is there what is a group I for?
Not adopted by us. Right? So I think our amendment is we don't amend this. Let me just double check. Let's see, it's 10.06224, right? 224. Yes, our amendment is the section is not adopted. So I suppose we need to figure out where it went so that we can not adopt it again or eliminate it if it just disappeared from the code. I don't know which the answer is. The electrical equipment rooms, which is 10.062.7. It changed in the model code to 10.006.2.2.4. And the model code language is different than it used to be, but I'm not familiar enough. I'll have to look up and see if it actually accommodated our language because it's different words, but it might be saying the same thing. So it needs to get reviewed further. All right. 10.006. Oh, and also those are not in the fire code. Sorry, those 10.006s need to get coordinated with the fire code. Okay. .10.006.3.3 has moved to 10.006.3.4, which is noted there. The model language appears to have accommodated our amendments, so we could eliminate it. Uh, 10.006.3.3 parentheses 1. It looks like it's been accommodated. It moved around, but it's been accommodated, so I think we can eliminate it. And the same goes for parentheses 2. That was where we say exit access. We add that to the table. It's that way in the model code now. 10.008 means of egress elimination. It hasn't changed in the 21, the model code, but in the fire code, 10.008 is reserved. So we must have had an amendment and removed it at some point. So we need to coordinate with fire code. Okie dokie. 10.009.1. It is the same in the model codes. There are no changes, so I don't propose any changes. .10.009.21.
Wait, Chris, just to be clear, same as it is in the model code, so we can delete it? Or
the model code has not changed. Sorry,
okay.
That was unclear. Yes,
okay,
the model code has not changed. 10.009.2.1. The model code has been updated to cover our amendment. So we can remove it. 10.009.8. The model code has not changed, so we would retain our amendment. 10.009.8.1. The model code has changed, but it hasn't taken in all of our stuff. So we probably want to try to smoosh the new model code language with our amendment language to make a better thing, is what I would recommend. Whatever the technical way to explain that would be.
I think smoosh is a technical term, isn't it?
I think so.
I was just gonna see how Krista put that in the notes.
Correlate. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. All right, 1010. 10.10.194 has moved to 10.10.2.4. And similarly there, the 2021 has been updated, but not all of our amendment has been captured. So we need to review our amendment and try to correlate them.
I agree. And I'd also recommend that we're missing some language in condition number 7 as listed. It reads it reads that it's there's, you know, condition 7, and then there's some provisions, 5 provisions underneath that, but it's specific to group I1 condition 2 assisted living facilities, needs to be extended to at least one other facility type, residential treatment facilities.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We could include nursing homes as well, frankly, but
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much any licensed facility where people aren't ambulatory, right? Or they're receiving ambulatory care.
yeah, scratch the nursing for sure. RTS. We'll look at nursing homes later because that's a different occupancy group, and they have some of their own provisions.
True.
Moving forward in the chapter.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Okay. 10.10.197 has moved to 10.10.2.14. And similarly, there's new model language, but it doesn't cover all of our state language. That has 10.10.110 has moved to 10.10.2.9. And it looks to me, and maybe Al, you can double check me, I think it has met our amendment and we could get rid of it.
That's what I was thinking too.
Okay, cool. 10.10.110.3 has moved to 10.10, or I think it should move to 10.10.2.2.4.1. That's a long one. This is a only us amendment. There's we're not modifying something in the model code, so it just doesn't exist in the model code. But I think if it moves there, it will be right underneath the other electrical room section. So it kind of makes like a good spot for it. Okay. 10.11 stairways. 10.11.7, it's the same section. The model code has been updated, and this one, I guess, is probably worth talking about. I think this is the amendment we created to clarify that when you've got a podium-style building that you can put a wood stair in the shaft. I think that was the intent of this amendment. I think that the model code has accommodated it, but I kind of wanted somebody to double check me on that.
Hey, that once more, Chris. It was, what was the amendment?
The amendment we have, my rememberings are that we put it in there for podium style buildings where you have wood over concrete.
Yeah, that was made it in so that you could use combustible construction on the podium levels.
Well, I think the intent was, my remembrance is that if you have a 7-story podium building, 5 of wood, 2 of concrete, the stair in its entirety could be wood within the shaft.
Yeah, that did make it into the model code.
Okay, cool. So I think we can eliminate our local amendment.
I was just working on a project with that. So I can
okay, cool. Oops, sorry. I just ended up in too many windows. Okay. Dang it, where was I? Doors, stairways. Okay. 1011.17 is a Washington State only section, and the model code hasn't inserted anything there, so I would suggest we keep it. 1012.1 has not changed in the model code, so I would suggest we keep it. 1019.3 hasn't moved. It's the same section. It has been updated to add section 9, or exception 9 is new in the model code, and it's not there, so we'd have to adjust our amendment. But then I was not able to figure out what our amendment does. Maybe, Al, if you could help me figure it out.
Yeah, and I didn't get this far in chapter 10.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris.
No, that's cool.
I'm noting it in my notes though to look at it.
Okay. I would recommend that we go back and double check its need, because when I read it, I don't see a need, but it could be that same thing where I missed the whole defend in place, the thing we were talking about earlier. So other set of eyes on it would be helpful.
Okay, I've got that noted.
Let's see, 1020.5. Oh, sorry, and also in 1019, that's not in the fire code. So we need to coordinate that if we do keep it. All right. 1020.4 has been accommodated in the model code, so we could eliminate our amendment. 1020.6, or sorry, 1020.5 has moved to 1020.6. Our amendment hasn't been accommodated fully, but there's a new exception in the model code that we would need to bring into our local amendment. And this section is also not in the fire code. So we need to coordinate there. Okie dokie. And then 1023.2 has not, or has been accommodated in the model code, so we could eliminate it. 1023.5 has been accommodated in the model code, so we could eliminate it. 1023.11, there are no changes in the model code, so we would want to keep it, but it needs to, it's not in the fire code, I don't think. I made that note for myself. I'm pretty sure it's not. 1024.8, that's been accommodated in the model code. We could get rid of it. And drainage, it's moved to 1031.5.3. And it was changed in the model code. It doesn't say exactly what our amendment is, so we should probably review it and see if it's close enough. And it's also not in the fire code. And if that all made sense, you probably need to see a doctor.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone have any questions or comments? If not, Chris, you want to do the honors of making a motion?
Sure. I recommend that we recommend the things I recommended.
Beautiful motion. Thank you.
This is Al. I'll second that.
Thank you, Al. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? And the motion passes. So chapter 11, I pawned that off on Stoyan at the last minute. So he's still looking through that. Did you want to say anything about that? Stoyan,
Yes,
or,
so I do, and because it's on the agenda for today, I will make a few comments, and we also need to decide, where and when we will discuss it. There are a few options, but first for chapter 11, most of our amendments are related to ANSI A117.1. And 2017 is new, and it has new requirements, new language, reformatting, and I just need more time to evaluate that. So what we will have with our amendments are some of our amendments, they just need to go away. They are no longer needed. Others, we need to keep the requirement there, but the language needs to be modified. And there are some that I will need advice on those. And I have two examples here. The first one is with the accessible route. So in 2009, the accessible route is 36 inches. And we have local amendment that exceeds, makes it bigger, 44. And now ANSI 2017 requires 48. Then there are several sections similar to that. So I guess it needs additional discussion if we want to keep with our existing language or just repeal the amendment and adopt the model code, which is 2017 ANSI. So I will need more time on that, and I will try to, for the next meeting or whatever we'll be discussing chapter 11, I will try to provide some kind of a side-by-side comparison that you guys can see, and we can have a discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Stoyan. Any questions, comments? All right, let's move on to 27. Will, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We need to decide the date for chapter 11. If we are moving to some of the other meetings, it doesn't need to be now, but probably before we adjourn.
Okay. Yeah, I think there might be a couple other TBDs if we want to determine those as well. So yeah, we'll discuss that prior to adjourning. Thank you for the reminder, Stoyan. Go ahead, Will. The floor is yours.
Okay, cool. So I recommend to keep this amendment. The amendment clarifies emergency and standby power duration requirements between fire pumps per NFPA 20. It talks about fire pumps requiring an 8-hour duration and all other power loads to be 2 hours. So it's a bit more clear, which is nice. And that's it. That was tough.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on chapter 27? If not, Will, you want to do the honors of your section?
Sure, I recommend to approve the recommendation.
Very good. Any seconds? Might die. Thanks, Chris. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, please say yay.
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion passes.
Excuse me, Andrew, this is Richard. May I speak?
Yeah, please.
I just want to make sure that we don't lose 29. I may have goofed because these sections for 29 were in WAC 27. So did we assign somebody to chapter 29?
This is Kim Barker. I'm doing chapter 29 next week.
Ooh, that muffled sound in the background are my happy feet.
And you are, just to be clear, you're talking about the plumbing chapter, correct?
The plumbing chapter 29, yes.
Okay, and Richard, that's what you were talking about too, right?
Correct.
Not Not that I doubt your memorization of the chapters, but just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. So speaking of people's memorization of the chapters, I am not sure what we meant by 47 there. Krista, Stoyan, I don't think we only go up to 35 here in the building code. Does somebody have a 47 in some way that's yours and you want to speak up?
My note said it was just through chapter 27.
Okay. Yeah, the agenda here that I just pulled up said 47, but it may have been a typo. Was anyone, if it was a typo, was anyone else expecting to present today so we can get you on the agenda in the future to make sure that we give public notice? Okay, so WAC 5150-009, and let's see, I think you posted a link to that for recyclable materials. So you put together, wow, that was fast, a code change proposal. So I guess we'll review it, and Stoyan, you want to go over it and decide if you want us to
yes. You see my name here, but I have to work on Richard's ego and say he worked on it and he did it, and I agree with him.
Okay.
So what we have here is these requirements, they're in the WAC, but they're not in the building code. And we need to find a better place for these requirements. And Richard is suggesting chapter 1 because he didn't find a better place. And again, I will agree with him because I'm not sure where is better. I have an idea about chapter 4, CBC chapter 4. With the other specific requirements, but this is just an idea that needs to be discussed. The other part is, if it's in chapter 1, these are the administrative provisions, and almost all local jurisdictions are amending those. They have their own administrative procedures, so we can dump it there, but it's difficult to control and predict what is going to happen in the local jurisdiction. So if we can find a better place for it, will be much appreciated. But if we can't, this is what we have for now in chapter 1.
No, thank you. What do you think of chapter 4, right after the EV subsection that we put in there?
Yeah, on the back, yes. But again, it's not the best place either. So we kind of need to pick and choose.
All right. So should we think, did you want a motion on this today, or did, should we think of where maybe we want to put it if we can't decide today? How did you want to proceed with it?
My personal opinion is that, you guys take it into consideration and we can discuss it some other time. Or if Richard had something else in mind, he can share with us. And
okay.
Stoyan, I will take that as my cue. The problem with chapter 4 is based on occupancy, and electrical vehicles vary depending on the occupancy. This is blanket. You got to do it.
Yeah, but it's got exceptions for specific occupancies. So kind of like the EV. I would argue that it has as much to do with occupancy because it has blanket exemptions for 2 specific occupancies as the EV section does.
I think the chances of it not getting lost again is better in 4 than it is in 1.
That's what I'm thinking too, especially next to the EV, which everyone in the state is aware of because,
it's a pretty significant state amendment.
I said chapter 4 because I didn't find a better place. But again, 1 and 4, there are pros and cons in each one.
This is Mike Barth. I agree with the 4 also, simply because 1 really is limited to administrative functions. You know, will it get lost in 420 or 430 or, you know, then very likely, but I still will be better than where it was. And I think the chapter 4 reference is the best we can do at the moment. I do like the way it got the way Richard split it out into the definitions and the actual code section, though. That works very well.
Mike, thank you, but that was actually direction from the tag.
Well, you typed it up nicely then.
Any other comments on this? It sounds like maybe we're just ready to make a motion. I would suggest a motion where we accept this, but putting it in 422, it would be, you know, that at the very end of chapter
429. 429 is the electric vehicle, so it's got to be after that.
Okay, so 430 then.
I would second that motion. This is Al.
Okay, well then I will say that was an official motion then. So thank you, Al, for seconding. Discussion. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And it passes. So I believe that takes us to the end of the agenda here. So we do need to discuss, Krista, are you able to pull up the document of the section review schedule? And then when you put that together, is this comprehensive? You know, we've got everything on there. Do we still need certain chapters to add in? Are we missing any?
This is Richard. It's comprehensive.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Mike Barth. There is the chapter 35 that I don't think, oh, never mind. It's there.
Okay. So Stoyan, thank you again for taking on chapter 11. That's a big commitment there. So I will let you decide when you think you'll be ready. You know, you want to do February 24th. Do you want to do one of the weeks prior? We can split it up also, you know, into pieces, however you like.
February 24th is perfect.
Okay. All right, anything else for the good of the order? If not, then we'll adjourn. Thank you everyone again for all the hard work. It's been, yeah, you know, it's moving along slowly. Al, Chris, thank you guys. I think you did most of that talking today. So thank you a lot for, you know, all the work that you did leading up to this and your expertise.
Thank you.
Yep. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully it's a downhill slide to Friday for everyone.
See you, Andrew.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.